Keith, I'm just gonna let you be the host. Does that work?
The hostess with the mostest?
Yep.
All right.
And then I'm gonna drop off with my computer, but you'll still see my name.
All right. That work? Well, we got the record button pushed. I think we'll yeah, it's 5 after, so let's get going. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Power Lunch. We have an interesting topic today, interesting presenter and technology to talk about. We've done some work with Zero Trust, and here's another take on it, kind of a neat product set, a different angle on the whole concept of Zero Trust and security. It's Threatlocker. So let's turn it over to Joe. So we'll have Joe and Ryan both talking. Joe will give us kind of a overview on who Threatlocker is, etc. And I think Ryan, when he's able to join us, will give us the technical overview on it. And we do have, for today's show, what am I on the radio? For today's session, we do have tchotchke for the end, for the wheel of happiness and fairy thoughts. We'll spin at the end for that, and I think we have maybe well, Joe, I'll let you talk about what we have. I don't want to take your thunder, so we'll go with that. So with all that, Joe, take over, and I guess I can make you the host.
So with that, I am trying to get a hold of Ryan still. So I got to make sure I got a technical resource that can run us through a demo environment, but I'll start here with this, at least for now.
You should be the host, though.
Yeah.
Just talk real slow. Text me Ryan's number and I'll give him a call.
Give me 1 second. All right, so if you guys can see this, is that showing on your screen?
Yeah, it looks like it's coming up. Yep.
Okay, so basically what this is just a simple representation of sort of the 3 approaches to security, okay? We start down here at the bottom with the human approach. Security awareness training, while it's valid, we all need it. I still need training myself. I make mistakes, but ultimately, no matter what happens, quote unquote, someone's going to click the link, right? So while this saves us a lot of hassle as an MSP or as having to deal with, minor issues that cause slowdowns, et cetera, ultimately, this is not where we're going to be able to shore up the gap 100%, because someone will always make the mistake, always get phished. The hackers get pretty sophisticated in social engineering. So then the other side is the detection side, right? You have AVs, EDRs, threat hunters, et cetera. All great tools, all tools that do things that are still required in today's security environment, right? But unfortunately, they're not the end all and be all. What I like to equate a lot of these things to are, if you own a property and you have floodlights, cameras, and alarms, right? That's what these equate to. When somebody comes on your property, the floodlights go on, the cameras start rolling, the alarms go off, but you're still left to figure out who's there, why are they there, and how do I remediate that, right? So what we've done is basically taken what has always been the gold standard of enterprise level security, nation state security, and that is application whitelisting, right? Now, application whitelisting lies over here on this side of the controls. So with it, we're basically putting in a control that says we are denying everything from running inside your environment except for what you explicitly want to run. Of course, if any of you've been in the MSP space as long as I have been, of course, this is a taboo, right? This is oh my gosh, the headaches that are coming my way from this are so astronomical, I don't even want to look at it. And because of that, well, the reason that is that in the past, application whitelisting tools really still required you, even though you could manage it at some level as an MSP, it still required an enterprise level team, an enterprise level of man hours to operate, right? And of course, with that comes an enterprise level budgets required. So what we've done at Threatlocker is basically said, we know what the gold standard is. How do we make that available to an MSP? And with that, that's how Threatlocker came about. We'll show you today sort of how we go about making it simple and easy for MSPs to do application whitelisting, but then we'll also show you a couple of things that we do very unique, one of which is what we call ring fencing, and you'll see that up here in the right-hand corner. Essentially what ring fencing is, without stealing the thunder from the demo, is we know there is a certain amount of good tools that you guys are going to use to do your day-to-day business. But guess what? The bad actors know that too. So they target those tools to be able to do things like run zero-day malware, right? So what ring fencing basically does is say, we know what those good tools are, you know what those good tools are, the bad guys do too, and we're gonna make sure that they can't weaponize those tools against you. The second part of what we'll show you today is an advanced storage control, and we get extremely granular with what you can keep track of on an auditing level and what you can do in terms of locking down your secured data. A good example is that, all right, I just got a note from Will. I'm gonna send him the link as well. Basically, sorry about that, guys. Give me just a second. I'll send this over and we'll get Will on the line to be able to walk us through the demo. All right, so on the storage control, we'll be able to show you exactly who's touched what file, when they touched it, what machine they touched it from, what they did with it. We'll give you a couple of examples, obviously, what that looks like in business case. And then the last piece that we'll show you is elevation. It's a new feature that we released in 2021 and basically gives you that full control of being able to do two things. Take away those local admin rights at the local user level so that you have full control of what does and does not get installed. But then on the flip side, there's often those one-off or even sometimes more common, but applications that require an admin level in order to just operate. Instead of providing that local user with the admin security and letting them run everything under the sun, we can elevate that one singular program. So still keeping the controls of what can and can't be installed and run in the hands of you and your team.
Nice. The one thing I'll say, Joel, is keep an eye on the participants when Will tries to come in. He'll need your permission to enter. So I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to let you know that.
No, I appreciate that because that's what he just pinged me. He's like,
Okay.
how do I get in here? And I sent him the link. So let me just make sure he's got it again. I'm going to send it to him right here.
It's fun watching you work, Joe.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. I think he has what he needs now. All right. He said he got the link and he's joining now.
Awesome.
So before Will kind of joins the room, I think that gives a good groundwork of sort of how we differ from AV, EDR, threat hunters, et cetera. You know, in 2021, we'll never ask anybody to remove a layer of security. What we're saying instead is that in today's world, I don't know of a single hack where the people getting hacked didn't have AV in place, didn't have some form of threat hunter or an EDR or some type of tool, and it didn't stop the attack. So it's not to say that those are bad tools or don't do what they're supposed to. It's a recognition that we need to do more in today's environment, and that's where we step in. Let's see. I lost track of my chat to see if he's joining the room here.
If you move the mouse down at the bottom, it should say participants. And if you click on that, you should see if he's waiting in the room to get in or not.
There we go. All right.
Do you want me to let him in?
I just got him.
Okay.
Hey, Will, how we doing today, bud? He's still connecting with the audio.
Still
Okay.
connecting with audio.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
Hey, Will, how we doing, bud?
I'm doing well. How's everybody else
That's
doing?
nothing like dropping in a conversation when people are already talking about you.
Yeah. Well, luckily, Will knows what's going on in terms of, he's one of our sales engineers, very knowledgeable about the product. I don't know that he was aware of the scenario of how we're doing this with everybody in the Lunch and Learn, but effectively, Will, I kind of went over the overview, sort of the differentiator of where we are between us and an AV, Threat Hunter, and some of the other tools on the market.
Okay.
Showed him the security triangle and where we lie there. Sort of gave him the intro to the demo. So if you're ready to rock and roll, basically what we'd like to do is get a high level demo of, what we do and how we do it.
Okay.
And if you're ready, we're ready.
Give me a quick second. For some
Yeah, no
reason,
problem.
I'm gonna close my lid for a second here.
Yep, no worries. Get that demo instance fired up.
Yeah.
So Joe, while we're in a little bit of a pause, let me ask a quick question.
Sure.
So it feels like, and you kind of alluded to it, it feels like the position or the kind of recommended approach now is to think about a like a suite of applications. So like if you have AV, that's great, that's fine. You probably need something in addition to AV to ensure that you're protected, and that's kind of become the new, I don't know if I want to say the new norm, but kind of the new go-to position from a security perspective, right? Because it seems like you said, that's a great point where, I guess I haven't seen somebody who's had an issue, who's been breached, who hasn't had AV in place either.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point, Keith, is that, 5-6 years ago, we were worried about something that we get from an email, click a link, and it puts a virus on our machine. But, malicious attacks is a $1 billion industry nowadays. And what we have to unfortunately recognize and acknowledge is that with all of us in the room, we are all the most underfunded. The bad guys are the ones with the money and the limitless resources, right? And they know what we do now. Unfortunately, they also know that MSPs, unlike going after one singular company, have company information for multiple clients. And so if they can breach us, they can move laterally and get tons of information instead of one singular company's information, which just basically puts us in the crosshairs and underfunded against the bad side that we're trying to defend. So putting controls in and saying, look, no matter who it is, no matter how big their budget, here's what we're allowing an application to do, and everything outside of that is denied.
Right.
And that's the approach that we're going to show you how we do today. One of the questions we get a lot, of course, is the maintenance. How much time does my team have to spend inside the solution if I'm going to implement this type of security? And the beautiful thing is what our clients tell us is they spend about 1.5 hours to 2 hours per month for every 1,000 machines that they manage inside of Threatlocker. So in the grand scheme of things, our business at the end of the day is to protect you and your client's data. And that's what it's worth in terms of time. So Will looks like he may be ready now. If you are, Will, just give me a little thumbs up and we're ready to rock.
We're ready to go.
Turn it over to you, my friend. And do you have screen sharing ability already?
I do. Everybody should be able to see my screen now, right?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome.
Excellent. Okay, guys. So forgive me if I am reiterating anything that Joe's already said, since I'm kind of dropping in the middle of the conversation. Basics about Threatlocker: we're cloud hosted, we're agent based, and we run in Windows environments. You can install the agent on any Windows workstation 7 on up, and any Windows Server 2008 R2 and above. Now, what makes Threatlocker different than your other security products is that we take a proactive stance. Your EDRs, your antiviruses, your threat hunters, they're essentially looking for things based on definitions or heuristics or past behavior. Here at Threatlocker, we don't care about how a file has been defined. We don't care how it's behaving. It's just simply a matter of, are you defined? Do you have a policy? And if so, then you're allowed to run it, that default deny approach. But when you do install the Threatlocker agent, there's a total of 3 components to it. Okay, the first component is going to give you your application control, which allows you to determine what's going to be allowed to run in the environment. Okay, this is also going to include our proprietary ring fencing technology, which then becomes your ransomware protection. The second component is the privilege access management tool that we're calling elevation control. And what this allows you to do is, in those scenarios where you're forced to give users local admin rights to their computer to run an application or install an application like QuickBooks, now you can simply just give that user admin rights just for that specific application and that application only. And then you can give them those permissions either for a temporary period, an hour, a day, a week, a month, or you can do it indefinitely. All right. Our last component is going to be storage control. Now that you can control what applications run, you have your ransomware protection, you can control the privilege escalation, the storage control then protects your data. And we're going to do so by providing you several different auditing policies that allow you to track all file movement on your network shares, USB drives, local folders, but you're also going to be able to create policies to prevent users from bringing in just any USB drive and sticking it in, expecting to copy files. You're also going to be able to protect your backups so that only those processes to your backups have access to those files. And you could also protect against QuickBooks database theft. And I'll show you some of these examples later on as well. Okay. Now, as far as our first layer goes, our application control layer, has anybody here ever seen some type of zero trust application whitelisting solution in the past? Okay. Yeah, there have been some legacy products out there. They're geared mainly towards the enterprise space, which means enterprise budget, enterprise implementation. You usually got to hire staff as well to manage that solution. So when we created Threatlocker, we really geared it towards the MSP space. It had to be easy to configure, easy to deploy, and a multi-tenant solution. So when you log into the portal, you'll be able to see all your organizations on one page. Creation of organizations is very simple. Pushing out agents to those organizations is also just as easy, because once you visit the computers page, you have several different installers to choose from: executable, MSI, PowerShell script. And then I didn't catch if you guys are using an RMM such as Kaseya or Automate. Are you guys, yeah, which one are you using?
Well, so we have a mix of different people here. I mean, we use a product called Atera, but there are people who have Kaseya and different tools of that nature in place. So like I said, you have kind of a homogeneous mix here of technology people, but yeah, so Kaseya, like I said, NetVPro uses Atera.
Okay.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, we're not RMM centric. We have scripts for just about every single one of the major RMMs. I think there's like 13 or 14 different scripts in total. That actually becomes the preferred method of deployment once we know you have an RMM. I'll provide you the script. I'll help you to configure the script. I'll even help you to deploy it out using that script. My partners who use those scripts can push out thousands of agents in less than an hour with my assistance. Okay. Now, once those agents do get installed, okay, the first thing that happens to them is those agents enter what's called a learning status. Now, this allows the agents, when you deploy them, to then perform an inventory on all the computers. As part of that inventory, the agent runs a baseline. Basically, what the agent is trying to do is figure out what's already running on those computers. So it's going to go in, it's going to start creating these definitions. All right, along with those definitions, policies get created automatically for you. The agent does all the work. Along with this policy creation and defining, everything that happens on those computers is also going to be tracked within this unified audit. So if users are executing applications, you're going to be able to see details on those applications, such as the path that the application is running from, the computer, the username, the hash of the file. If that file even has a signed certificate, that'll come through as well. Nice thing is, doesn't matter where the computer is. This is always going to get sent over to the portal. Okay. Now, what we do is, let me move this over here. What we do is, once you get the agents installed, you want to let them run for a minimum of 1 week in that learning status. Now, that's not to say that's all you need to let it learn, but at a minimum, you want to leave it for a week. And the reason being is that even though it does that initial baseline within the first 2 hours, the agent is going to continue picking up files that are executing during that 1 week period. Now, during that time, it's going to continue building out these definitions, all right? Essentially what the agent is doing is it's going into these applications and it's fingerprinting those files, and it does so by hashing those files out. Now, this is the way that later on the agent identifies applications as they're running is going to be via this file. Okay. Everybody tracking so far? Okay, cool. Now, along with those definitions, policies get created. Agent does all the work for you as well. The nice thing is that once the policies are created, when you decide to secure your machines, you ultimately have control over what runs. Let's say, for instance, you're a ConnectWise house, okay? And you happen to find TeamViewer as a policy created within that environment. Well, you may not be using TeamViewer, nor should your clients be using it. It could be the result of a user installing it on the backside to remote into their computer from home. Well, if you don't want TeamViewer to run, good, bad, or indifferent, you simply turn the policy off. Okay, if you've secured the machines, if that user attempts to install TeamViewer or even execute it again, what you're going to find is this policy list works very much like a firewall. So if you're familiar with firewall technology, policies run from top to bottom. Agent's going to look for something to permit it. If there's nothing that's either enabled or there at all, the agent hits the bottom of the list and does a default deny. But then the user gets a prompt and then they could submit that request. And what you tend to find is that once the users are aware that they can't install these applications, if they try and install a Chrome extension and it's not on the list, they try and install a game, it's not on the list, they're going to get that prompt, they're going to have to submit that request, and then they're going to be like, oh, wait, I don't want my IT department to know about this. Maybe I won't submit this over, okay? And you'll find that, you know, the users start to curb themselves to the technology because then they realize they just can't install whatever application they want because if it's not on the list, they hit that default deny, IT department gets the notification, and then you have a conversation with their bosses about it, right? Any questions here, folks? Okay.
So how long, yeah, well, I have a quick question. So how long
Sure,
does
go ahead.
how long does that process take to kind of, you know, when the client goes out there and it's kind of doing this learning thing, I guess, how long does that take to have that happen?
So on average,
Yeah,
right,
on average.
what I see is about a 2 to 3 week period to allow the agents to pick up those files. Now, there are going to be some environments where you may have to extend that beyond a month, okay? CPA firms, maybe some healthcare facilities that may run applications once a month. Those may require a little bit longer because, again, sometimes the agent isn't able to learn these files until they actually execute. It's going to do the best job it can in the initial baselining, but when things start executing, then the agent can start picking them up, all right?
Okay.
Now, some things I want to show you as benefits here when these policies are created is when the agent does this policy list, it builds it in 2 attempts. The first layer of policies are always at the bottom of the list. And the agent's going to go ahead and define common applications, your Adobes, your Googles, your Microsofts, etc. But even any custom line of business applications will get profiled too, okay? What the agent then does after it creates those policies is it comes back through and it attempts to match them to a library that we manage. There's about 400 applications in total, including the Windows operating systems, which means that if we find a match for an application, we'll throw a second policy on top. Now, the agent has done a few things for you up until this point. It's gone through, it's done your inventory, it's fingerprinted all the files, it's created a policy for you, it's even verified which applications are using vendor release files. The next benefit comes after you secure them is when applications update. Now, if you've ever looked at those legacy whitelisting applications, when, say, Chrome releases an update or Microsoft Office or something else, you have to physically download those patches, run the hashes, and add them to the system before you can do the updates. Well, with Threatlocker, all these built-ins, all these ring fencing, and your operating system. Whenever those patches are released, we download them, we hash them, we add them to the system for you. Which means 24 hours after release, if you choose to upgrade those patches via your RMM, nothing will get blocked as a result because we're doing all of that legwork for you ahead of time. Okay? So we're going to take a whole load of work off of you now with this whitelisting because we've got our teams doing that work. Make sense so far, folks? Cool.
Yep.
Now, once we go through that week-long period, we'll start reviewing the audits together. We have what's called an audit review. It's basically an extension of the demo. We'll assist you in reviewing all the applications, making sure policies are in place. What we look for then are any applications that may auto update, because then we can future-proof them. We can create rules that bypass the hash. And then we'll also cover any applications that you may need to manually update. Now, those line of business applications that need to manually update, those are actually pretty simple, because all you have to do within Threatlocker is identify one computer that needs that update, throw it into an installation mode. Once you've done that, the agent unlocks, it allows you to run that update, and as it's doing so, it's capturing the new files and adding them to a definition for you. It's only got to be done once on one computer. And then those files become a public reference, and all the other agents can use those files too. All it requires after that is just the policy to be in place. Okay. Now, I've covered some of the basics with you as far as how this is all going to work. Let me show you guys what it's going to look like now once we've kind of deployed some agents, secured some machines, and if a user then attempts to install an application. All right. Now, as you folks already know, it just simply takes a user to find out about the latest and greatest extensions. User comes in. Here, let me come over here. I'll use my browser. User visits the web store, Chrome web store, and just decides to try and install a Chrome extension. Now, folks, for you guys, what's the scariest thing about Chrome extensions outside of they're constantly finding exploits with them?
I don't know. That's pretty scary in and of itself.
Yeah. So for a lot of people who I speak to, the scary things about the extensions is that the user doesn't have to be an administrator to install them.
Right.
They can be a local user, right? Simply visit the web store, find whatever extension they want, vet it or not, click on it, and attempt to install it. Great thing about Threatlocker is it doesn't matter if it's an executable, a PowerShell script, a batch file, a VBS, a JSON file. If there is no policy and the user attempts to install it, they're going to get the block. Did I click on this? Let's try that again. I seem to be running really slow here. Let's try this one. Yeah, I'm still reloading. I'm sorry, guys.
Do you have Haley's internet?
Yeah. Maybe all of our internet is running through Haley's house.
Now, Sheila, I see you asked a question about, is that just on the admin computer? I'm not sure I follow what your question is.
When you were saying that you just have to run that on one computer and then it becomes public for the rest of the space, I was just curious if that has to be on the admin computer.
It can be on any computer. It can be on a user's workstation. It can be on one of your own virtual machines that you're running internally. The whole idea is you just want to be able to run that install on one computer that's in that installation mode, because then the agent captures all those files for you and creates that definition. Okay. Now, this is what it looks like on a user side. User tries to install a Chrome extension, not approved. They get an error and they get this request screen. Now, this can be white labeled. So if you want to throw in your own logos, you want to throw in your client logos, so it looks familiar for the users, they can do so.
I actually like that. I like that it has that request. Because like you said, there's a psychology behind it. Do I really want these guys to know that I'm downloading whatever I might download?
Yeah, and now they have to provide a reason in their email address. All right, not required, but it is recommended. Right. And then they send that request on over. Now, for each of you that are using a PSA, we'll configure Threatlocker to send an email over there, create a ticket on your service board. The ticket will create a link that once you click on it, prompts you to log into the portal, opens up this
Oh.
request screen.
So let's just say, for example, we have our ticketing thing is support@netvpro.com.
Mhm.
If we can configure it so that it just goes right there and creates a ticket right in our system.
That is correct.
Sweet.
That is
That's
correct.
pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
handy dandy.
Yeah, what's also nice too is that once you open up that request, all right, you're going to see all kinds of details. There's some neat little tools in here too. For your Chrome extensions, if you ever look at the path, you really can't tell what they are. You know it's an extension, it says Chrome extension. You've got this alphanumeric kind of GUID, and then they always end in manifest.json. So what we do is if you look down here, we've got two buttons, one for the Chrome store, the other one for the Edge store. So if you want to verify what that extension is before you permit it, visit the store, confirm the extension, okay? If you then feel it's something that is legitimate for business use, there we go. I just want to show you that. There we go, MetaMask. All right. Now it's just as simple as coming down and saying, I want to create a new definition, give it a name, okay? You then permit the application, and then you decide at what tier of the organization you want to create that policy for. What's nice is you can do it for all machines within an entire organization, a group of those machines, or just an individual computer. All right. Once you're done, you click save. It takes 60 seconds for that policy to get pushed out. By the time you craft the email letting the user know that, hey, that application's been permitted, they'll be able to go back to the Chrome store and install it. Okay. Make sense, folks?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to see Chrome extension, MetaMask, I'll save that out. Okay, so really simple process when it comes to these permits, these requests. You can submit those out, and like I said, within a matter of 60 seconds or less, that policy has been pushed out, and that user can then install that Chrome extension. Okay, and that should have been pushed out by now. So let's see. Let's go ahead and try and add it. And it's getting added. Man, I'm running slow today. There we go. Extension has been successfully added to my browser. All right. A lot of our partners really love this part about the product because up until then, not too many people had the ability of controlling the extensions. You know, and it seems like every 6 months, you know, Google's clearing out like 500 or more different extensions because of exploits.
Right.
So this is going to give you that better control over those. Now, this application control layer, that's our first layer of protection. All right. Now you control everything that runs within your environment. However, what it's not going to stop, and neither is your antiviruses, your EDRs, or your threat hunters, is your ransomware. Okay. Now, the reason why ransomware is so successful is because they take front-end applications like Microsoft Office, Google Chrome, Adobe products, find an exploit that can then call back-end applications like PowerShell, command prompt, run code, and then they start encrypting files. So Threatlocker has created a technology that we call ringfencing. And we actually provide you about 24 ringfencing policies out of the box that we apply from day one. Two of the more popular ones, Microsoft Office is going to be ring-fenced and PowerShell is going to be ring-fenced. Now, currently they're disabled, all right? Which means that if a user in the accounting department receives an email from someone with a Word doc that says invoice, payment, whatever, they always open it up, right? Never fails. Then they see links and automatically they click on the links. Well, first link may draw them into a false sense of security because this one opened up Google Chrome or whatever website. The second link, however, which looks like MSN, instead is going to open up PowerShell. It's now embedded a command to make a remote call out to a server, pull down a payload and execute it. 50% of your ransomware attacks are accomplished using techniques just like this. So to protect your users, even though you give them that know before training, you can take advantage of this Microsoft Office policy from day one. Now let me turn it on, show you real quick what we're going to do. Now with this policy deployed, if a user does click on a link, we're going to prevent Microsoft Office's ability, because we're going to ring fence it here. We're going to block its interaction with PowerShell, Command Prompt, C-Script, RegServe, all those administrative tools which the bad actors like to use and perform those ransomware attacks. So now if a user were to receive that document, and even though you give them that know before training, they click on links, you're going to protect them from themselves, because that attack can't launch. It now says it's not registered to open the file. Okay. Questions here, folks?
No, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, let me show you how we're going to protect your network. Because what if that bad actor who's sending those emails to the accounting department is tenacious and decides to try to find a backdoor to a network and manually run those commands that macro was supposed to run? Well, all he has to do is jump onto a server once he finds that backdoor, jump onto a server with PowerShell. All right. From here, he can start navigating through local folders, network shares, and maybe trying to start accessing your data, copy, delete, manipulate, whatever. It's been blocked. There's no access to those files because the PowerShell ring fencing policy is preventing it. If he then attempts to maybe do a remote call out to a server that's not on the list, same concept, he's going to get blocked. Because if you see here within the PowerShell ring fencing policy, all right, number one, we're going to block its interaction with BitLocker. Can't encrypt your files no more. Number two, it's going to lose access to your network shares. You have to give it the paths, map drives, local folders, or extensions. And then we're also going to block its access to the internet. That right there is the big one. Because now it can't remote out and pull down those payloads from those servers unless you put the server address in there. Okay. Make sense, folks?
Yeah. Nice.
Comments, concerns, feedback so far?
No, it's pretty interesting stuff.
All right, cool. And there's so much more we can do with the
Right.
ring fencing. It's not just limited to those applications. You can take any application you want, just simply modify the policy. All right. And instead of permitting it, you ring fence it. Once you've ring fenced it, you now have your 4 tabs to control how that application can interact with your environment.
Yeah, we might have to have you guys back to talk about that technology a little bit. It's pretty interesting, and I feel like we've kind of just scratched the surface here,
Yeah.
But yeah, we might have to look at doing a part 2 of this.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we're only about halfway through what Threatlocker can do. All right?
Right.
That's only two of the layers of security. The third layer is the privilege access management that we call elevation control. Now, as an example, right? Currently, I'm logged in as a standard user on my computer. I don't have any administrative rights. I have granted myself some permissions on applications to elevate as administrator. If I were to try and run as administrator here, okay, I get blocked, all right? But I have permitted, say, Putty to run as administrator. So if I run Putty as administrator now, it actually opens up. So this gives you that level of control to only allow the users to open up those applications or upload those applications using those admin rights. However, there are privilege access management solutions out there besides us, but one of the shortcomings we found is that if a user understands permissions, they can then use those permissions to do something called application hopping. All right, navigate through, right click, open. All right, I've now opened up PowerShell as administrator. So what we do at Threatlocker is you still grant those permissions. However, you throw the ring fence around it. So instead of simply permitting the application, you ring fence it, and then you say, deny interaction with all applications. Where'd it go? There we go. Once we've done that and saved the policy, if that user tries to application hop to anything, it's going to get blocked. So you can still grant those admin rights and guarantee that they're not going to try and leverage them to open up something else. Okay. And then the last piece is here, because we are running short on time. Thank you, Joe. is the storage control. So, and just really quick, some of the things that we do with storage control. Let me actually go to a different organization here. Out of the box, I mentioned to you auditing capabilities. So we have the ability of auditing local folders, documents, desktops. My partners like to also add in, if you're doing SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, you can audit file activity in there too. Everything that happens on DVD and CD drives, USB drives, network file access, external storage device. Okay. One of the main uses my partners like to use Threatlocker for is to prevent USB access. Now, I know there's a lot of solutions out there that can block USBs, but I challenge you to look for a solution that can get as granular as we can. All right. And what I mean by that is, here on my group of machines, I've created a block USB drive policy, which means if any user brings in a USB drive, plugs it in, tries to copy files, it's going to get blocked. However, we've granted them the ability to request permission in case there's a use case. All right. Now, if they submit that request, we can then add that device as a defined storage device by serial number. Once you've defined that USB device, you can then create policies around it. And in this particular case, I'm only allowing that USB device to be used on one computer only. So if that user then attempted to go to a different computer and access files, he'd get blocked. On top of that, I've limited the types of files he can store to just Word docs and PDFs. So if he tried to grab a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint or even like a database file, he wouldn't have access because we've limited it just to those particular processes. Okay. Backup protection is also possible. So similar to this protect local assets policy, come in here, put in your backup paths, UNC path, map drive, whatever. Once you've added that down to the list, you can come down to the program section, tell Threatlocker to auto-populate the processes that have accessed that folder location, remove everything not related to your backup software, QuickBooks, whatever. And what you've now done is harden that location so only those processes have access to that. And nothing else can gain access, overwrite, copy, delete those backup files, okay? Folks, I'd love to get into some more with you, but I do have to leave some time for Joe afterwards. I'll remain on for any technical questions that may come up, but hopefully you guys get a good idea of what Threatlocker can do now, all right?
Awesome. Very good.
Cool.
Thank you, Will.
You're welcome.
Yeah, any questions at all? I know we're kind of cutting it a little shorter on time, but
Well, I have a question, and my question is, can we get you guys to come back again in a few weeks to give us another presentation?
yeah, absolutely. I can work with you directly, Keith, or with Haley.
Yeah.
Whatever works best. You guys just let us
Yeah,
know.
Joe, let's you and I work on it, because now that I've seen the overview, maybe we can put together a targeted, kind of more of a targeted deal and talk about some of the technology specifically, because I don't think any of us really knew a lot about this. It gives a good overview, but I'd like to drill down into some of this stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, you know what a lot of people find is when they first come to Threatlocker, you know, obviously you're trying to solve for a specific security issue lots of times. And so they'll become a partner that we solve for that. But then as they start to just explore throughout what we can do, the granularity extends to almost every aspect of security that we handle. And you can get really specific about machines and about USB drives and who can access information and when they can do it. And so it's really whatever you can dream up, we can help you build a ring fence policy around it or some type of security that really hardens that bit of information.
Right.
Well, perfect then. I will reach out to you. I know you guys got to finish this. Good luck with whoever gets the wheel of death.
Well, let's see. Can we see if I can get it? I think Haley wasn't able to do it, so let me do it. I'll share my screen and we can do the wheel of death live. Let me just make sure I have everybody captured, and I think I do.
Isn't it time for Raj to log in?
Yeah, where's Raj? Raj was signed up too. We don't have Raj. He's our ultimate winner. Raj and Ken share winning usually. So what we're going for a Threatlocker t-shirt and maybe something else too, or?
Yeah, we're going to send a little swag package.
Swag bag.
So whoever wins, just share with me a t-shirt size and we'll handle the rest.
Okay. Can Let's see. Will, could you make me the host again? This Keith.
Yep. Let's get that done. Make host. There you go.
All right, awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. We got the wheel of death. Happiness up. Let's see here. Can you guys see the wheel? Yeah. All right. Here we go. We're clicking for, play silly games, get silly prizes. Here we go. Denny
Yeah.
B. All right. Hey, you know what? Is this the second time Denny has won? He might be elevating himself to Ken Raj level here as far as victories go. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, we'll get Denny's info and get that to you so you can get the swag bag. If somebody wants to see an additional demonstration for their business, just work through me and I can set that up with you, Joe. Is that how the best way to do that?
Yeah, we can do it that way. That's very simple and easy. I mean, I can also just provide like a link if anybody wants to register. We can do it that way. Whatever's easiest for you guys.
Yeah, well, let's have them get a hold of, if you have interest, get a hold of me and we'll set up a demo and do it that way. And like I said, Joe, let's work together. And I think that we want to do a round 2 and dig into some of the stuff a little bit more, because the folks who are on this call are pretty technical. We're gonna have some deep dive type questions. We like to see the live demo, so thank you for that, Will. The group here always appreciates that. I'm actually gonna hit the stop recording button here, and then we'll go into the NetV Pro after hours. So 1, 2, 3.